y equals 73. 4x minus y equals 11. You could use elimination, or substitution, but we're using row operations. You switch rows. But it's not always used. You multiply row by number. Then what you do is you add a multiple of a row. There are two things that will help with that. That will help with you. Will help with the elimination. To make a 1, you multiply by its reciprocal. Then to make a 0, add its opposite. Two, 7, 3, 4, 1, oh, -1, then 11. That is called a argumented matrix, I think. And then the goal for this is to make it 1, 0, 1, 0, and then number. And that is called a reduce. Order of steps. Order of steps is make 1, which is 1, then 0, make the 0, then you make it 1, so 1, 0, 1, and then you make a 0, so it goes 1, 0, 1, 0. So for the first one, you do row 1 times the reciprocal of 2, so that'd be 1/2. 2 times 1 is 1. You don't change the bottom. So 4, 1, negative 1, and then 11, that stays. Then all you do is change the 7 and 73. So you do 7 times 1/2. Then after you take 7 times 1/2, like half, then you take 73 times half, which is 73 halves. The next one you do row 1 times the opposite of 4, which is negative 4. Then you add, then what you do is add row 2. So row 1 stays the same. It's 2. 73 halves. So you do 4 times negative 1, and then plus 1 is 0. And then you do 7 halves times negative 4 plus negative 1. So for the second one, I got negative 15. And for the third one, I got negative 135. So next we do, we're gonna do this number. So we only change row 2. So we do row 2 times the opposite. You do the reciprocal of 15, which is 1 over 15. So 1, 0. This should end up as 1. And then row 2 is the only one that changes. So you keep these two numbers. So you do negative 135 times 1/15. Negative 9. That's what you should get. And then for this, the next one, you do only changing this number, row 1. So you're only changing row 1. So what you do is row 2 times the opposite of 7 halves. So opposite of 7 halves is negative 7 halves. Thumbs and hold up the sky when you were 1 hair out of the sky. When the nights got cold, stole you far from down below. You're looking at me, oh, so I lie. So the sun, you welcome, just days bring you fun. Oh, so I harness the breeze. You welcome, shake and take your trees. And what I did was add row 1. What you should do, so that 0, 1. So since you're only changing row 1, you get negative 9 stays. So you're finding this should be ending up as 0. And then all you're finding is this one. So you do row 2, which is -9 times -7 halves plus 73 halves. So you should get 68. 68. So when you get those, so this is your you reduce your R, E, F. After we find this, now we know the X and the Y. So X, Y, so it's just X equals 68 and Y equals -9.